In what is perhaps not the most surprising move ever, especially when it comes to the case of the Siders family out in Vinton County, Ohio, Hamden to be specific, a judge has ordered that Elizabeth Siders be evaluated to determine if she is fit to stand trial, like mentally competent to stand trial, and if the insanity defense applies to her. This will be the fourth out of the four defendants charged in this case that will have a mental health evaluation. Again, not super surprising, but I want to go over the order a little bit tonight. And the Columbus Dispatch did a remarkable piece that they published just, I think it was yesterday. Have to check my facts here. Gotta check my facts. And it was day before yesterday, the 10th, that we have not read, that talks about like how the Siders family were able to stay under the radar. Some of the things that have been uncovered while the Dispatch has been doing their investigation. It is an amazing piece. And so we're going to talk about that too. So I guess our plan here is we're probably going to start with the request, which we've covered before, but the request to have her evaluated, the order to have her evaluated, and then we're going to have a conversation based on the Columbus Dispatch's fine work about how this happened. They published a photo of her freshman year in high school, which is pretty much when she dropped out. I mean, we know that she went back for at least part of her sophomore year, but yeah, it basically was what she was when she was Elizabeth Russell, not when she was Elizabeth Siders. And I mean, well, I put it on the thumbnail of this video so you guys can see it. It's just crazy. The question that I have is how did what started as that cute little high school girl, like all high school kids are, right? They've got all of their future ahead of them, and they just don't know what they don't know. And of course, all of us make different decisions that lead us in a lot of different paths, but how does it start there and get to where it got? That is my question. It's not the question of the day. We're going to get into that. So we'll talk about Elizabeth Siders. We've got 3 questions. We've got some headlines from the world of true crime, including in the Lindsay Clancy trial, the Nick Reiner prosecution. We've got some Luigi Mangione news, and we've got a fugitive from justice update who is accused of killing her 3-year-old child. And just to clear the palate at the end of the day, we have some good news, which shines a light on the just the brightest part of humanity. So I'm really looking forward to that. But before we begin, before I let Javi push his buttons over there in the Javi booth, let's start with the question of the day to get those little fingers warm. That's right, on my channel you got homework. You gotta engage in the comments. You gotta engage in the live chat if you're live on YouTube. Comments if you're watching in Spotify Premium Video. If you're listening throughout this handsome blue planet of ours on your favorite podcast platform. Question of the day, because this next weekend, which actually, real quick, just a quick little housekeeping. I know I missed yesterday. That sucks. And then because I missed yesterday, I came in today thinking it's Tuesday. It's not. It's Wednesday. That's the day we normally do the after show. I'm not even prepared. I didn't even. I thought it was Tuesday. So no after show today. We'll get back to it next week. Goodness, Gavin, I need to grow up. I need to be more of a professional. But also, On Monday next, which, what is that? Is that the 17th? Let's look at the calendar. I should have brought this up. Monday the 17th. Yes. I will be traveling. My beautiful wife and I will be traveling home from visiting friends, which is what inspired the question of the day. Who is someone you're grateful for today? And if you don't mind, why? Why are you grateful for that person? I personally am grateful for old friends. I got a chuckle out of one of them today, one of the texts that I received. And then I've just been, for months, looking forward to hopping on a big old jet airliner with my beloved and going and meeting some friends, you know, in another state. Just cause it's the weekend and we can, and we haven't seen each other. We haven't all been together in 25 years, maybe. Not quite, but close. Anyway, who is someone you are grateful for today? That is the question of the day to get you going. And with that, Javi, I think it's time to go ahead and roll the intro here. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. I am so glad to have you. My name is Gavin. Thank you for joining me for another true crime conversation. Hey, when we do the Siders case, oh my goodness, we get the videos get demonetized. They just do. And so I have put a goal up for super chats, which I do from time to time, and I'm grateful for those of you who support me. I'm grateful for all of you, but thank you very much for supporting me financially, guys, through super chats and other means. Looks like we got Blue Ridge Hiker coming in with a teal super chat, watching from the North Georgia mountains. It's a beautiful day. Glad you're here. Chemistry Queen coming in with much love from the Sportsman's Paradise and Mardi Gras land. Nice. Thank you so much. Got another couple. What do we got? We got Lynn with a super chat. Thank you. We got 2 super chats from Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. You are awesome. And yeah. Also, you guys did what was right. You got to tell me where you're tuning in from. Okay. While you're answering that question of the day, who is someone you're grateful for right now? Let me just introduce the case, okay? This case, guys, on June 30th, police had a warrant and they were sent by themselves. This is horrible, Javi. I'm going to need to take 2. We ready? Okay. On June 30th, police went to the house of Gary Siders. I call him G2. Some people call him Gary Siders Jr. Some people Gary Siders the second. Anyway, he is the younger Gary Siders. They went to this house to get Mr. Siders on an arrest warrant for indecent exposure, 4 counts, and discovered that there were little ones living in horrible conditions in this house. And so police took into custody and arrested Gary Siders the younger, his mom, Christina Siders, his dad, Gary Siders the elder, and his wife, Elizabeth Siders, who is the main subject of our conversation today. They were charged eventually. First, it was with 17 counts. Then they changed it to 16 counts of endangering those 16 kiddos. Some of those kids were taken to the hospital. Some were life-flighted. Some were in critical condition. Attorney General Andy Wilson, if I remember, I think it was him, said that, or maybe it was Sheriff Ryan Kane, said that they were within days of losing their lives. It was so bad. Now, I should say that attorneys, including defense attorney Tommy Stolley, who represents Elizabeth Siders, was like, you guys you've overplayed your hand here. You've over egged the pudding, so to speak, right? And but either way, the children are now in the custody of the state of Ohio. Ohio has moved for permanent custody of these 16 kids. And the Siders are, well, 3 of the 4 Siders are currently in the Hooskow. The elder Mr. Siders was released on his own recognizance because of health issues. The rest of them, to my knowledge, still are in lockup. And that is where we are in the case. That's what we're going to get into today. Let's just check in to see what you guys are saying for the question of the day. A chemistry queen has joined us. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. Etaya checks in from Eclipsed, Staffordshire, England. Thank you very much for being here. Wingate Kid, hello to you. Question of the day for Mother of Dragons 24, my fiance and kids. That is a terrific thing to be thankful for. Montana Sunshine checking in from Montana. Chemistry Queen saying, grateful for my beautiful daughter. That is the mama of 2 and 1 on the way. Awesome. Got three grands. Let's bring up the question of the day. 1 is severely disabled and she is a wonderful mom to him. Wonderful. I love it. Wingate Kid says, my sweet daddy. Awesome. Elizabeth McMasters, one of our intrepid moderators, says, today I'm grateful for a lady named Nicole who fired my legal assistant, and it's been quite a day. Wow, okay. Wow, that is quite a day, Elizabeth. Woo! Tina May says, I'm grateful for my oldest, my only daughter. In a home full of teenage boys and a husband, she is always thoughtful and shows appreciation and affection to me. So thankful for her. Awesome. Becky Johnson says, tuning in from the Big Bend to Florida. I'm grateful for the people I work with at Called to Peace Ministries who allow and encourage me to work with DV survivors. Awesome. Awesome. Montana Sunshine is grateful for the old family. Alicia says, I'm grateful for my husband and my mother, and so grateful that they get along so well. Both are my best friends, tuning in from Arizona. That's pretty awesome. Clarinet Girl, I'm grateful for my mom who passed in 2009 and was everything to me. Think of her every day. I inherited photo albums as far back as her childhood that I love so much. You know, I was thinking about my mom. The Clarinet Girl, thanks for sharing that with us. I was thinking about my mom. I have in my possession bags and bags of my dad's negatives, if you guys can see this, that I am going through slowly scanning. But my beloved mother, who is still with us, thank goodness, in her younger days, we were all referred to her as Shauna Shutter. And I've got some photo albums, but I wonder where all her negatives went. That is a question that I shall be asking her soon. Marie Jubenville, thank you very much for the super chat. She says, I'm grateful for Melissa Shaw. She made 2 special t-shirts, one of which I will be wearing next month when I participate on a panel about living with spina bifida. Awesome. Lori says, I'm so grateful for my daughter. She's helping me pay the bills since my stroke in October, since I'm unable to work. Glad you have your daughter for you. Thank you, Lori. Checking in, Mother of Dragons from Tiffin, Ohio. Frida says, well, come on now. Some of us, like myself, are appreciative of you. Like you don't know. Well, I wasn't fishing for that, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Thanks so much. That's a great way to get us started. Let us get into the case at hand after I sip this delicious water out of my Del Hole coffee mug. I am grateful for hydration. All right. Come with me, if you will. Let's make sure that we are on the right page. Oh, if I would have pushed the button before I checked, I would have given away our good news, which is our palate cleanser, right? So I'm glad that I didn't do that. All right, come with me, if you will. over here, just as a reminder, on August 4th, this document was filed with Judge Federal Rogers in the case of the state of Ohio v. Elizabeth Siders. This was the attorney, Mr. Stolley, Tommy Stolley, his motion for an evaluation to determine whether the defendant, Elizabeth Siders, is not guilty by reason of insanity and whether the defendant is competent to stand trial. And in this, he has a memorandum in support. We'll scroll down to that. And, he mentions he hasn't seen the whole case against her yet, but he has met with her on numerous times. During those interactions, he says, quote, counsel has been able to observe the defendant's demeanor, conduct, and comprehension. These interactions lead counsel to believe that the defendant may be suffering from significant mental health issues and that competency may be an issue and a clear impediment to the defendant's ability to assist in her own defense. Counsel is prepared to provide a more detailed accounting of his concerns and the specific conduct giving rise to those concerns directly to the court and eventually to the evaluating medical professionals. At this time, counsel believes that the defendant's significant mental health issues would not only affect whether she's competent to stand trial, but would also have affected her ability to understand the wrongfulness of her conduct at the time of the alleged offenses. And remember, I had been laboring this whole time because of my own ignorance and not understanding of. I had been laboring under the impression that the 16 counts covered a long time period. And so when I was thinking about it, like, was she legally insane over a long, long time period? But no, that's not the way it is, at least as I understand it. I could still be wrong and reserve that right, by the way. But the charges, there are 16 charges because there are 16 children because of what happened on that day when police went to arrest G2 that day. So, did she understand the wrongfulness of her conduct at the time of the alleged offenses on June 30th, 2026? And he also questions, would she have fully understood the consequences of her actions at the time? And, and he even says, should such actions have actually constituted criminal conduct? So he's not even agreeing to that this is criminal, which is his job, right? He's the defense attorney. So he put in that motion for his client, Elizabeth, back on August 4th. Give me just 1 second here, guys. Sorry about that. Man, I just really, really need to sneeze. Okay, so he put that back on August 10th. August 4th. And on the 10th, while we were covering other things, the judge gave us an order. Okay? So while this may have been covered on other channels, I haven't covered it yet. So I wanted to get into this order. It's not long. And it's very similar to the other orders for G1, G2, and Christina. Okay. Order directing an evaluation to determine whether the defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity and whether the defendant is competent to stand trial. You know what's funny is I've never seen, maybe this is an Ohio thing, but okay, so they're going to get evaluated by a professional, and that professional, I guess, is to determine whether the defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity. Will that be the end of it? Somehow I doubt it. Somehow I figure that a report comes in and says Elizabeth Siders is not guilty by reason of insanity, in my professional opinion. Please the court. I'm sure that the prosecution will go, whoa, 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 whoa. I would like to have a second opinion, and then they will argue on that. That's my guess. I mean, that's the point. You go into lawyering because you want to make an argument, right? And that's the way the system is built up. Okay. This matter comes on for consideration on the defendant's motion for an evaluation to determine whether the defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity and whether the defendant is competent to stand trial. This matter is brought before the court on August 4th, 2026, which is what we just read, right? It is hereby ordered that 1, it's the same place that was ordered for Christina, G1 and G2. Okay. Number 1, the Forensic Diagnostic Center of District 9, Inc., a certified forensic center designated by the Department of Mental Health, will examine defendant to determine whether defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity and whether the defendant is competent to stand trial. The person conducting the examination will be an examiner as defined in ORC 2945.37A2. The examination date and time is to be scheduled with defense counsel and must be in person. The examiner shall submit a written report of the examination to the court under seal no later than 30 days after the date of this order. That actually reminds me, okay, when would have been the first one? Because they were all given 30 days. When do we expect to see those reports? So for Christina, it should be on the 29th of this month. For G2, it should be on the 3rd of next month. And for G1. And for G2, looks like the 29th of this month. So at the end of the month and the beginning of next month, that's what we should see. Okay. Where was I? Okay, this report shall be separate from the report on the issue of the mental condition of defendant at the time of the offense charge. Okay, so there will be 2 reports. All right. The report of the examiner shall contain the findings of the examiner, the facts in reasonable detail on which the findings are based, and the opinion of the examiner as to whether defendant I think is capable, I think that's a typo, of understanding the nature and objective of the proceedings against defendant and whether defendant is capable of assisting in the defense of defendant. Number 6, if it is the opinion of the examiner that the defendant is incapable of understanding the nature and objective of the proceedings against defendant or of assisting in the defense of defendant, the examiner also shall state in the report the opinion of the examiner as to the likelihood the defendant becoming capable of understanding the nature and objective of the proceedings, blah, 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 within 1 year. Now remember, some of these orders were 1 year and some were 6 months. So let me just go back real quick. I think... So G2... Is that paragraph 6, basically? Okay, G2 is 1 year. G1 is... 1 year. Christina, I think, is the 6-month one. Yeah, Christina is 6 months. Just looking at the docs off screen there. Okay. If it is the opinion of the examiner that defendant is incapable of understanding the nature and objective of the proceedings against defendant or of assisting in the defense of defendant, the examiner also shall state in the report the opinion of the examiner as to whether defendant presently is mentally ill or has an intellectual disability. Oh, they've changed their descriptor, their phrase. They used the dreaded MR last time, but okay. Or has an intellectual disability, and the recommendation of the examiner as to the least restrictive placement or commitment alternative, including consideration of needs and the availability of mental treatment in the community, consistent with the treatment needs of defendant for restoration to competency and with the safety of the community. Paragraph 8, the time which defendant must be brought to trial is extended. Okay, so yeah, this is an extension again, right? So right to speedy trial has gone out the window. They usually waive it anyway, but they're extending it. The time which defendant must be brought to trial is extended by virtue of ORC 294572B, any period during which the accused is mentally incompetent to stand trial or during which his mental competence to stand trial is being determined. The state of Ohio shall provide the examiner with a complete copy of discovery in this case within 10 days of the date of this order. And that is really interesting to me because, okay, the examiner is going to have a complete copy of discovery, but according to Attorney Stolley, at least back on the 4th, he hasn't received complete discovery. So hopefully Mr. Stolley and the other attorneys representing the other defendants will get full discovery on this. So that is where we are in the case. And this is where we sit basically until, well, I mean, the lawyers might still do some lawyering. They might make more motions and they might do other things, but when it comes to mental competency, we're looking at the 29th of this month and the 3rd of next month and then the 10th of next month as the earliest we will know that the reports are in. Now, they're all going to be filed under seal, so we're not going to know what is in them, but that might be the time at which we see some more movement on this. There's probably still some lawyering to be done, right? But that's where we sit today. All 4 defendants, G1, Chris and his wife Christina, G2 and his wife Elizabeth, are all being evaluated for their mental health, their competency to stand trial, and for a not guilty by reason of insanity evaluation. And we shall see. All right. But that's where I want to actually, let's check in to see what you guys are saying over here in the live chat. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Lost Vegas, that's hilarious. Hide that. Says, right now I'm grateful for the internet to be with the fishbowl at 5:15 a.m. all the way from Thailand. Oh my goodness. I have been to Thailand on multiple occasions. I have a funny story about Thailand. Now probably isn't the time or place to share it, but yeah, it's clean. It's a good story, but yeah, probably not the time to share it. Maybe one of these times. Maybe in a 3 questions. If you guys ever want me to talk about my funny experience in Thailand, maybe put in a question. Hey Gavin, can you tell us about your funny experience in Thailand? Robin says, I appreciate my dad who taught me how to apologize and be accountable to my children when I raise my voice or am grumpy. I never want my kids to carry shame or feel like they can't speak up to me. That's good. Montana Sunshine said, actually, I should have said my 3 children. I think you said your daughter, right? I got it. Nina says, I'm grateful for my cat for being such a good companion. We have 2 little kittens, the Haynes sisters, Betty and Judy Haynes, and the feisty one, they're like switching roles. When we got them as kittens, there was one that was feisty and one that was rather cuddly, and they're switching roles. The feisty one really loves her tummy rubbed. Let's see. Ganja Girl says, my son, otherwise I wouldn't be here. Love from Jersey. Yeah, good. Good on you. Great comments, guys. Great comments. Okay. Come with me, if you will, over to this article from the Dispatch. This is, it has pictures in it. It's 13 pages, but it has pictures. It's not super long. But it goes into great detail. It does not say who. Oh, yeah, there it is. Sheridan Hendricks and Laura A. Bischoff wrote this for the Columbus Dispatch on August 10th. Headline: Sider's family quietly dodged public scrutiny as family grew to 16 children. And maybe I'm just too boisterous. I am an introverted person. Evidence notwithstanding, here I am talking to you on the internet. But I get my batteries charged from loneliness. Like, I like it most of the time. There was a time in my life where I was miserable being lonely, but these days I just really like to be alone, or with my snuggly bear, my sweetie pie, my one and only, and maybe the kids. We like spending time with the kids, but to really recharge, I like to be alone, right? But we have 5 kids. We're not terribly boisterous. It has not mattered where we have lived. We have been known to our neighbors, to our community, to our tribe, to, tribes that we come in contact with, we trade with and stuff like that. Like, we are known. Oh, sometimes they know, there's Gavin and Kimberly, or there are the Fishes, or they're those weird folks that dress funny, or whatever it is, right? Why is that beautiful woman hanging out with that fat man? But they know us. How a family can grow to 18 and still stay under the radar is a puzzlement that this article does a very good job of describing. Let's get into it. By 10 a.m., the temperature was already creeping into the 80s. Sweat was beating on the foreheads of Vinton County Sheriff's deputies and agents from the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation who had surrounded 182 Omer Street. The house, a 1,336 square foot, one-story property with faded beige siding and chipping green paint, sits on a dead-end street between an empty lot and a heavy tree line. The railroad track across the street obscures the home's view from Hamden's main drag. By the way, the whole size of the house. Look, my father-in-law is the oldest of 11. And you can make commentary on like, it's definitely eccentric to have a big family, right? But they lived in like a 1,200 square, maybe 1,500 square foot house if you counted the garage that they converted. But they lived in a small home, and were eccentric. They had to figure out how to fit in that place, right? But it was a home that they always wanted to go back to. Even as they grew up and made their own families and made their own homes, they always wanted to go back to mom and dad's house, grandpa and grandma's house, because it was a home, right? It doesn't, like, you can make you can. I mean, they did it in the olden days in the 1800s all the time. You can have a big family in a small place and keep it clean and nice and beautiful. This is why I've always thought that there was substance abuse here. Maybe it's just mental illness, but anyway. And then my wife, my snuggly bear, my sweetie pie, my one and only, Kimberly Fish, she's the oldest of 9, and that house, again with the converted garage, is probably about 1,500 square feet. They raised 9 kids in that house. So yeah, I don't know. It's not the size of the house. Doesn't matter. But anyway, getting back to the article, authorities came to arrest 36-year-old Gary Siders Jr. on June 30th for public indecency. BCI teamed up with local sheriff's office in a remarkable show of force for what, according to the complaint, was Siders exposing his private parts to be viewed by people outside his household over 4 days in May. Inside the house, officers, yeah, this is an understatement, found piles of trash. Floors so sticky they tugged against their soles, like spelled SOLES for those not watching this. Not tugged against their human soles, but the soles of their feet. More than a dozen cats and an overpowering stench. More than a dozen cats. They found something even more shocking at the back of the house. 16 children held in a feces-caked 12 by 12 foot room. That's how they describe it. I don't think the room is square. I think the room is a rectangle. But whatever. The gaunt, pale children ranged from toddlers to teens. Authorities had been investigating Gary Siders Jr. for weeks, but said they had no idea 16 children lived in the house. Neither did the neighbors or the village officials. The disturbing scene triggered a cascade of questions. Who is this family? And how could this have happened? Why didn't anyone know about these children? Confidentiality laws in a family that stayed off the radar are shielding most answers from the public for now. Vinton County prosecutor, Vinton County prosecutor William Archer provided a brief update on the ongoing child, let's call it CA investigation that has captured national headlines. Columbus Dispatch journalists traveled to Vinton and Gallia counties and West Virginia to speak with neighbors, business owners, first responders, landlords, school superintendents, family members, and others. Reporters reviewed court records, school directories, marriage licenses, birth certificates, obituaries, and social media posts. Good. I love local reporting. Okay, what emerges is a portrait of a large, impoverished, multi-generational family that succeeded in keeping out of the public eye, not only because they chose to, but because state and local officials, schools, neighbors, and their own extended family didn't seem to notice when they melted into the rural countryside. Children stopped going to school, and a judge issued citations, but it seems no one set foot on the family's home until the day deputies discovered the kids and rescued them. Those investigating the case describe it as extreme and horrific, but it also is a window on the hidden costs of poverty for both families and society. The state has sent $1 million to Vinton County to care for the Siders' children, and it's expected to send more. Yeah, it'll send much more. If the children remain in therapeutic foster care for a year at the state's estimated cost of $250 a day per child, the bill will climb to $1.46 million just in the first year. Many people, particularly those who didn't know the Siderses personally, feel heartbroken over the situation. Some wept for the children, wishing they could have done something to help. And I think that is the emotional string that is being tugged within you and within me, right? Why we are so invested in this. Like, how does this happen to 16 kiddos? And yeah, I think there have been actual tears shed over these kids by us, you know. But others who know the family and might have known what was happening aren't talking. Quote, I got nothing to say. I know the whole family. I got nothing to say. Alan Wood, a previous landlord, said from inside his office at Wood Realty in downtown Gallipolis. A man who answered the door at Kathy Mercer's house on the outskirts of Hamden said she wasn't giving interviews. Mercer is the daughter of Margie Taborn, who died last year and owned 24 properties in Vinton County, including the house on Omer Street, where the Siders, the house in question, this house, right, where they were found. So, how could a local landlord not know about a powerful stench or floors so unstable that deputies thought they might fall right through? Vinton County doesn't have zoning or housing code enforcement. That's not a question. That is a statement. Vinton County doesn't have zoning or housing code enforcement. It's a small place with only like 12,000 people. And yeah, it's just the tax base can't really afford it, I'm sure. So yeah, nobody's going around making sure that there's code enforcement. Just crazy. Well, I guess it's not crazy. That happens in a lot of places, but in this case, look what happened. Okay, Elizabeth, continuing the article. Elizabeth Sider's mother, Lori Russell, who was working a day shift at the Long John Silver in Gallipolis, declined to talk to two reporters. Quote, "I don't want to talk. I ain't got time. I'm at work," close quote, she said as she filled a drive-through order. And then this is a picture of where the house sits. You can see this is the house right here in the lower corner. You can see the railroad tracks going by. They are elevated probably 10, 12 feet and cover from view everything from downtown Hamden. Just on a dead end street there. In fact, that's probably why people love it back there. That's probably why the Siders chose it. Okay. June 30, the rescue and arrests. The moment that deputies and agents found the children, they began calling for ambulances and EMTs and medical helicopters. All 16 were taken to hospitals. 2 were airlifted to a trauma center. 1 child had to be intubated, as in putting a tube down the child's throat for it to be breathing. I guess you can intubate someone to feed them, but I think the implication is a breathing thing. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have added that. Ohio Attorney General, continues the article, Andy Wilson, said just another 24 hours in the squalor and some of the kids probably would have died. Okay, so it was Andy who said that. First responders loaded some of the Siders' children into their vehicles and drove them to nearby hospitals for treatment. The kids didn't talk much. Their bodies were covered in scratches and bug bites. Vinton County Sheriff Ryan Kane, who was with deputies at the house that day, said livestock get better conditions than the Siders' children had. You know, not to make light of this, but I went to a county fair last week. I'm serious about this, but I went to a county fair last week, for coverage for my little local publication where I work as a reporter, and interviewed a couple of the youngsters that were there showing their pigs and their goats and their sheep and their cows and stuff like that. And like, if 4-H children would have been running this household, right? If 4-H children would have been running this household, it would have been spick and span. You should have seen that county fair. It was just clean and spotless, just slick as a whistle out there. It was so good. So yeah, when Sheriff Kane says livestock get better conditions than the Siders' children, yeah, I like looking at the photos of the house, criminy. Yeah, and comparing these photos with what I saw at the county fairgrounds with the 4-H, the adorable 4-H kids with their like awesome belt buckles with the 4-H symbol and their blue ribbons hanging from their pockets and all that stuff, right? Yeah, they're taking care of things. That is not what was happening inside the Siders' house. Okay, quote, "The conditions these children lived in were horrific and we are sickened by it," said Kane, a 23-year veteran of the department. In court filings, you know what? I'm wondering what the county seat is of Vinton County. Let me look that up. I haven't ever looked that up. Vinton County, Ohio county seat. The county seat is the village of MacArthur. So if I go to MacArthur, Ohio in maps, let me do it here so you guys can see it. Let's show it to you. All right, and then we get directions to Hamden, Ohio. We are about 8 miles away. 8 to 10, depending on how you travel, right? So Hamden is this little one down here, and MacArthur is the one up here. So, I mean, I would imagine that the sheriff who serves the entire county would have been to Hamden before and been familiar with the town, right? Our local sheriff, yeah. I mean, he's 23-year veteran with the sheriff's department. I imagine he would. Okay. In court filings, Christina Siders pushed back on the narrative presented by Wilson and others, calling their statements hyperbolic and describing the home merely as unsanitary. Of course, she did this through her lawyer, Christina being mom/grandma, right? Christina Siders was the only one providing for the family, covering the rent and utilities and buying necessities, her attorney said in filings. Attorneys for G1, Christina Siders and Elizabeth Siders, did not immediately respond to the dispatch's request for comment. R. Lee Roberts Jr., who is representing G2, previously told the dispatch that he does not want to speak with the newspaper and will not respond to requests for comment. Indeed, most of them, except for Mr. Stoley, are prohibited from doing so. But they have to put that in the article. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Okay, what systems failed the Siders' children? The state took immediate custody of the Siders' children and surged $1 million in emergency funds to Vinton County. Before approving the money, lawmakers asked about which government systems, child welfare, healthcare, education, and others, failed the Siders' kids. Quote, how could this ever get to this point? That many children for that long, and I don't know all the details. How could that even take place? It's almost as if we stumbled upon it by accident, said State Rep Bride Rose Sweeney, a Cleveland area Democrat. Almost by accident? No, it was by accident, Representative Sweeney. It was a complete accident. Continuing the quote, I just don't know how anybody could say that this is going on for as long as it did and our systems are working as needed. Well, I mean, somebody from that particular political bent, that's what that person will view it as, right? This was a failure of the system. People who view it from the opposite political side, and I try to keep this channel apolitical, I'm trying to be fair here, would maybe even look at it differently and go, the community, the churches, the civic organizations, they're the ones that failed on this, right? But the truth is both, right? Okay, the case is shining a national spotlight on one of Ohio's poorest and least populated counties. Online forums popped up overnight to rehash details and speculate on the unknown. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, a longtime advocate for children, said it's too early to weigh in on the case. But though the Siders case isn't extreme, experts say it's not an anomaly. Quote, not only could this be happening somewhere else, but it is happening somewhere else, said Jack Freck. I think that's probably Freck, a longtime anti-poverty advocate, former director of Athens County Job and Family Services, and former deputy director of Hawking Athens Perry Community Action Agency. Dude, that is a long title for your business card. But Mr. Freck is not incorrect, right? Double entendre, not all that great. Mr. Freck is correct. Not only could this be happening somewhere else, but it is happening somewhere else. Elizabeth Jones and I have talked about that on this very channel. It's happening all around us. Maybe not to this extreme, but it is. Continuing Mr. Freck's quote, there is no doubt that throughout the entire state of Ohio, there are families with children struggling to get food and housing. Freck, who is not involved with the Siders case, said policies designed to provide social services, overburdened agencies, and narratives that blame individuals for their living in poverty all contribute to a system where families ultimately go without help. Local and state law enforcement are still investigating, and the court has taken steps to limit the public's view of the case. Vinton County judges sealed the warrants in the case and approved a gag order barring officials from talking publicly about the case. The Dispatch has filed lawsuits to challenge those orders, as well they should, insofar as the court did not have arguments on it. She just sealed the case. And not cool. But much of this story is still a mystery because it appears that the Siders family didn't want to be known. Quote, to have a child off the radar is troubling enough. 16 kids in one family in one household to be off the radar is something I've just not seen, said Joel Potts of the Ohio Department of Children and Youth. Wilson said the Siders took steps to hide the children. Quote, they knew that if anybody actually knew what was going on, these kids probably would have been removed and they would have lost the kids. And does that not, guys, does that not indicate a certain amount of not insanity? That is the worst. I did not diagram that sentence very well in my head. Okay? But does it not indicate a certain level of sanity when there is evidence showing that they knew that how they were living would result in the removal of their children? Is that not what that indicates? Okay. Investigators believe the family largely avoided establishing medical and other government records for nearly 2 decades. The sheriff's office said on July 1 that the case involves prolonged and extreme interfamilial neglect and abuse. Freck said there are certainly other families who are determined to disappear. Quote, there are kids all across this state who fall through the cracks. This is not unique. We don't know how many other families are trying to stay off the grid. Okay, that's a good place to just pause for a moment. We'll bring up, look, this is a picture that has gone around online showing Elizabeth Siders as a younger version of herself. And it's just incredible to me how she can transform from that into what we see in her mugshot. It's just crazy. Going over to comments, catching up on comments. Gluten Free says, I'm grateful for all my cats that helped me in my darkest times and my boyfriend for always supporting me and my daughter, my only living child out of 14 pregnancies. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad you have your daughter. Gluten Free says, I'm moving to the beach on Monday. Oh, we'll just rub it in, Gluten Free. Just rub it in. Marie says, I grew up in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home, and there were 7 of us, parents in 1 bedroom, girls in 1 bedroom, and the boys in the other bedroom. Yeah, there were 7 of us in our house too. And same kind of thing. You can squeeze into a house. And sometimes you don't have to, right? Depending on your situation, you might be blessed to have more room, but not only can you, most people do. Yeah. Thanks, Marie. Robin with the super chat. Thank you very much. Saying, stay chill, my dude. I will do my best to stay chill. Lynn coming in again with a super chat. Thank you, Lynn, for that. Sharky Sharona, thank you. She says, I'm grateful for all these fishies. You guys are awesome. Becky says, they have repeatedly said it's the poorest county in Ohio. Yes, indeed. Maine Coon Mama Nicole says intubation is breathing only. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. Thank you. Appreciate that. Gluten Free says, I love the pocket doors. The pocket doors. What part of the conversation was about pocket doors? I don't know, but I'm glad you love pocket doors. Fun fact. We live in a home. This is, Robin, you know what this is? Yeah, it's totally a tangent. We live in a house that's rather aged. It is 123 years old now. And on the first floor, our interior walls are like a foot thick. They're not like adobe. We're not living in one of those houses. This is a Victorian home, right? They're like a foot thick. And I saw somebody on social media buy a house and they suspected that maybe there were pocket doors on the inside and they got one of those little cameras to go in and found that there were pocket doors. And I wonder, does our house, because it's a Victorian, right? Victorian houses are notorious for being compartmentalized. Like we have 7 working fireplaces in our house. I think originally there were 8, because what is now our laundry / the cat's bedroom, that was the maid's quarters, and it has a fireplace below it and a chimney going all the way up, and it is the only room on the second floor that does not have a working fireplace in it, like that has a chimney going up, right? So I think there were originally 8. So I think that what they would do is they would use pocket doors and they would close everything up, and then they would have fireplaces, heating up those rooms. Look what you did to me, gluten-free. Look what you did to me. You sidetracked me, but you know what? All is forgiven. All is not lost. We can pick up right where we were. Let's keep on going. Lynn joining the Fanatic crew. Thank you very much for doing that. Appreciate that. And then Becky says the fear of government interfering. I brought up the wrong. Let's bring up, there we go. The fear of government interfering can reach extreme levels, approaching actual paranoia, which can reach an insane level. Pushing back against what I was thinking, and that's a good pushback. It's very good. Flobio Plays says, I'm grateful for being a junior and going by my middle name. Well, I'm not grateful for going by my middle name, I'll tell you that, but I'm glad you are. Kim says, from Toronto, I'm grateful for my dearest childhood friend and father who demonstrated unconditional love. Awesome. Smashed Like Glass is checking in with everybody. And then Robin is saying, you've got to have pocket doors. I'm sure we do. We ought to get one of those little cameras or open up one of the walls one of these times. The previous owners did such a good job in renovating this place that we have done nothing more than like occasional painting. That's all we've done in the house. They did such a good job. But don't get me sidetracked, Robin. Robin. Getting me sidetracked. Okay. Let me take a drink of this delicious liquid refreshment out of my dill hole coffee mug. I do love me some hydration. Okay, the early years. This story doesn't begin in Vinton County. The Siders family tree roots wide and deep. The Siders family tree roots, as in the verb roots, not tree roots as in the noun. Okay. The Siders family tree roots wide and deep in Gallia County, a rural southeastern county along the Ohio River. Gary Lee Siders was the fifth child born to William and Virginia Siders in April 1953 at St. Anne's Maternity Hospital in Columbus. His father was a courthouse janitor. The irony is not lost on me that he is the child of one who cleans for a living, but let's continue. Christina Lynn White was one of 12 children born to Jesse Alvin and Dorothy Lucille White in August 1958. Christina moved to Ohio from Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1975. A very good year, by the way, 1975. The year of my birth, the month October. Also the year that Christina moved from to Ohio from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and appears to have never completed high school according to school directory information. Gary Sr. and Christina married in July 1978, ages 25 and 19 when they wed, and lived in Gallipolis. 9 months later, they welcomed their first child. The Siders had 4 daughters before their son Gary Jr. joined the family in October 1989. Genealogy research and obituaries show large families on both the White and Siders sides. Christina's mother's obituary in 2017 lists that she had 36 grandchildren, 108 great-grandchildren, and 38 great-great-grandchildren. Holy cow! My goodness. That is wow. Okay. In March 2008, Gary Jr. married Elizabeth Russell at the Mason County Courthouse in West Virginia. Elizabeth, then 15 years old and pregnant, was allowed to marry 18-year-old Gary Jr. with the consent of her parents, Brian and Lori Russell. Gary's parents also consented, and a circuit court judge signed off on the marriage. And look, there's a picture of her from 9th grade. It's the one that I used in the in the thumbnail here as well. I wish I would have gotten it. Here, hold on. I can bring it up so you guys can see it. Go over to images. Open. Here. Yeah. Okay. There it is. There she is. Cute little freshman in high school. About this age is when, I mean, a little older, but about this age is when she married 18-year-old Gary Siders Jr., G2. Okay. All right. Let's see. Child marriage isn't unusual in the Siders family. Oh my goodness. I have gone deep into child marriage laws in these United States, and it is shockingly scary how many places still allow that where there's still no minimum age to be married. It's crazy. Gary Jr.'s sister Virginia married at age 15, and a cousin, Richard Siders, married a 14-year-old. Elizabeth appears to have attended Gallia County local schools through 10th grade, according to school directory information. She withdrew from River Valley High School in April 2008, which I think that would have been her 10th grade year. That would have been near the end of it, right? The spring of her 10th grade year for homeschooling and the last weeks of her freshman year. Okay, 9th grade year. Days later, Elizabeth and Gary Jr.'s first child was born at Holzer Medical Center in May 2008. Okay, Gavin. Okay, so this girl right here that I'm showing on screen, a freshman in high school, she withdrew at the end of her freshman year, and then the following month, they welcomed their first little bundle of joy. As new parents, the teenagers lived in a mobile home park near Bidwell. Elizabeth re-enrolled in October 2008 during her sophomore year and completed the academic year. Oh, I thought that she'd withdrawn before that. About a week after she gave birth to her second child, Elizabeth switched to homeschooling in August 2009. Directory records do not indicate if she graduated high school. The school district did not have any directory records indicating Gary Siders Sr. or Gary Siders Jr. attended school in the Gallia County local school district. Yearbooks reviewed by the dispatch did not show that either were enrolled in the district. Okay, bringing home babies year after year. In under 17 years, Elizabeth gave birth to 18 children through 14 pregnancies, including 4 consecutive sets of twins. Elizabeth, who married as a high school freshman and does not have a driver's license, got pregnant every 15 months on average. During that time, they moved frequently, lived in rental houses in Bidwell, Gallipolis, Cheshire, and Hamden. By the time Gary Jr. and Elizabeth's second child was born, the family moved to an isolated house atop a ridge on Poplar Church Road near Bidwell. Besides the church and graveyard around the corner, the home's closest neighbors are a mile away. It's so remote that residents must haul their own water to the house. Their family grew significantly before they moved to Vinton County. May 2008, daughter, Gallipolis. August 2009, daughter, Bidwell. March 2011, daughter, Bidwell. March 2012, daughter, Bidwell. May 2013, daughter, Bidwell. September 14, son, Bidwell, sorry. May 16, daughter, Bidwell. October 17, daughter, different address in Bidwell. October 19, son, a different address in Gallipolis. September 20, daughter in Cheshire. February 22, twins, Bloomer, Wisconsin. November 22, twins living in Cheshire. January 24, twins living in Cheshire. January 25, twins living in Hamden. The elder Siders might have been living with their son and daughter-in-law at some point before they moved to Vinton County. A 2015 judgment filed in Gallipolis Municipal Court against Christina listed her as her address as the Poplar Church residence. This map shows where they were living when their children were born. Okay, so 6 children 6 children in Bidwell, 6 in Cheshire, or 5 in Cheshire. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay. School enrollment and a truancy case. The couple had 10 children when they moved to Cheshire in 2020. They rented a white 2-story home on Honeysuckle Drive near the train tracks and behind the Marathon station. Their oldest was 12 years old. Their youngest was an infant. Though they lived in Gallia County for more than a decade, records show that Elizabeth and Gary Jr.'s children were only enrolled in the school district for 2 academic years. The first 6 Siders children enrolled in Gallia County local schools on August 26, 2020. According to school directory records, that year, the district offered an online school option to stop the spread of COVID-19. When in-person classes resumed, the Siders children weren't attending. Melissa, who declined to give her last name, lives 3 doors down from the Siders' house. The school bus would stop to pick up students along Honeysuckle Drive, including her own children, but it drove past the Siderses. The children were also enrolled for the 21-22 school year, but in October 21, Gallia County Juvenile Court filed 6 complaints against their parents for failing to send their children to school. The court also filed truancy complaints against the 6 children who ranged in age from 7 to 13 years old and should have been attending Adaville Elementary School in the Gallia County local school district. None of the complaints were ever served upon Elizabeth, Gary Jr., or the children, though, because the court couldn't find them. The truancy cases were eventually dropped in January 22. That part kills me. The Siders' children were unenrolled from the district in April 22 after attending 0 days of school that year. Melissa's brother and his family lived next door to the Siderses. Once or twice, her nephew would yell over the fence, inviting them to play, but the Siders kids were never allowed to leave their own yard, she said. The landlord, who is buying it on a land contract, appears to be one of Christina Siders' 11 siblings. After the Siders moved out, he allowed his son to live there with his adult children. That man tried to sell the house, and now there is a warrant out for his arrest. Melissa, the neighbor, said it took a while for neighbors to notice the Siderses had moved again. Their house was left a mess, she said. A handyman working on the home, which is now under new ownership, told an ABC6 reporter that he found kids' clothes stuffed away in the attic like someone was living up there. The whole entire house was just urine, human, and pet feces. It was pretty rough, he said. They've lived like this for a while. In January of 25, Elizabeth, Gary Jr., and their children rung in the new year in a new county. In just 3 years, the Siders family went from 10 to 16 children after Elizabeth gave birth to 4 consecutive sets of twins. A set of conjoined twin girls, however, died within hours of being born in November of 2022. The ever-growing family lived in a gray 2-story rental on Main Street in Hamden, not far from where Gary Sr. and Christina had been living on Omer Street. Neighbors and others in Hamden saw the adults every now and then, but never the kids. Melissa Hammond, owner of the hardware store, said 3 of the adults came in for supplies, with Christina carrying a chihuahua in her arms, but it had been years. The Siders case, Hammond said, is unthinkable. Quote, "It was really heartbreaking. I can't imagine a world where that exists." And Melissa, as you know, it exists just over the tracks from your shop. Okay, the grandparents. A Vinton County judge appointed counsel for each of the 4 adults, declaring them indigent on the spot. It's unclear what sources of income sustained the family of 20 people. In a court filing, Kendra Roberts, attorney for Christina Siders, said her client provided for the family, but she didn't clarify how Christina earned money or if anyone else in the home worked. Roberts said there's no evidence that Christina participated in any acts of abuse causing serious harm, physical harm, to any of the alleged victims. Rather, the home's unsanitary conditions were the sole basis of the charges currently filed against her, Roberts wrote. Yeah. Vinton County agreed to change Gary Sr.'s bond to avoid paying the tab for his medical care. County Prosecutor William Archer said it could have bankrupted Vinton County. Members of the extended Siders family have said the family fell out of touch in recent years. Tessie Siders, who married Gary Siders Gary Sr.'s cousin Richard, when she was 14, told the New York Times that she hadn't seen the family in about 8 years and they didn't attend her husband's funeral last year. Had she known what was happening, she would have helped, she said. Ronnie Fletcher, who married Gary Jr.'s sister Amanda, told NBC affiliate WOWK in Charleston, West Virginia, he didn't know where his in-laws have lived for at least 7 years. The last time he saw Christina was about a year ago. Fletcher said the family didn't spend Thanksgiving or Christmas together. The only time the rest of the family typically heard from them was when his mother-in-law called to ask for money or help paying the bills. Quote, my wife will take the last $5 out of her pocket and buy somebody a meal and a chance running out of gas to get home. We didn't know this was that way we would have helped, he said. And that's the end of the article. So much good reporting in that article. And it still doesn't, I mean, they purposefully avoided attention. They avoided the public spotlight. The only time they got close to being under scrutiny was the time when the children should have been enrolled in school and were truant. They were able to, like this headline says, dodge public scrutiny, 18 of them, all those years. And I just don't know how somebody goes from, a little cute little freshman in high school to mother of 16, mother of 18, two deceased, living in squalor, apparently over the course of a lot of time. If you're to believe the people that were cleaning up after them as they would move along. I just don't know how that happens without there either being serious substance abuse issues or mental health issues. This is one of those cases where I'm kind of like, I think probably mental health incarceration. I know it's not called incarceration, but mental health incarceration is probably the best thing here. And hopefully, I don't want her to have those children back. Maybe that just feels super cold. I don't want her to have the children back. I don't want dad to have anything to do with the children. I don't want grandpa and grandma there. I still want a DNA test. I want to know that G2 is the father of those children. But I think all 4 of these adults should be committed to the care of a mental health facility and never to be heard from again by those children who I hope find happy homes that will love them. The sad part is that they have to be split up, right? They have to be. Unless there's some like crazy new way to keep them together. I don't think there is. It's just, it's just so tragic. And that is what tugs at our heartstrings, right? That's what tugs at us so. Let me go over to your comments over here. I got a couple before we move on. Oh, Becky says, I was a nanny for a family with multiple fireplaces and there were pocket doors. 6,000 square foot house for a family of 4. Ridiculous. It is ridiculous when people live in giant homes with so many fireplaces. That's funny. I will not. No comment. Robin says, I would never get you sidetracked. Me? Robin? All right. Lynn says, Elizabeth was so pretty when she was young and in school. This is so sad how lost she looks now. Smash Like Glass says, thank you. You made my night. I've been following since the beginning. I didn't go. There we go. Smash Like Glass. Jaw dropped at how huge on Lynn's side. I don't know what that means. Not following you there. Smash Like Glass, Robbie in the cradle much? Yeah. Flobio says, with that luck, the twins, why haven't they played the lotto? That's funny. No driver. Yeah, Becky, I'm glad you picked up on that. No driver's license for Elizabeth. People saying she should have left. That's a huge barrier. Yeah. And it could be a result of a lot of things, including coercive control, right? It could also be a lack of self-confidence. It could be a lack of ability. It could be a lot of things. But man, that was one of the things that really changed our kids during COVID is they just didn't want to go anywhere. Like COVID changed. Like when I was a teenager, I just give me my license, give me the keys, and I'm out the door. And my parents were mean about it. I didn't even get my license till I was 18 because I refused to get my Eagle Scout, which was a prerequisite in my house for getting my license. Didn't stop me from driving, but it certainly stopped me from driving legally. And I just wanted to go, 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 go. And our kids were like, whatever, you know. And we had to really wrestle with them. Listen, mobility equals freedom. Mobility equals independence. We got to get you mobile, right? Gotta get you going, get you out of this rut. Got to get you mobile. And if somebody makes it into their 30s and hasn't and isn't driving yet, that there's a problem there. Faux show. Smash Like Glass, regarding Elizabeth from high school to now, she doesn't resemble herself due to constantly being pregnant, stress, mental health, and health in general. I would imagine you are not wrong. I wonder how much substance abuse or alcohol abuse there is in there. Cold Aquarius says there's a case similar to this back in Illinois, except a 3-year-old passed. Happened in 2022. The parents are still in court. Ugh, so sad. Elizabeth says, right, I can't believe kids today don't care for driving. It was freedom. Yes, Robin says, you didn't get your license because you were a little ungovernable. No, Robin. No, I was a good kid. I just didn't like scouts. I have nothing to complain about with my parents, but they did make a couple of decisions that Kimberly and I purposefully didn't make. My dad wanted to be an Eagle Scout and did not earn his, and he wanted all of his boys to get theirs. And 2 of the 3 of us did. But it wasn't for me from the very beginning. I didn't like it. I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't feel like I was learning anything because I wasn't paying attention to anything. I went there because where we had scouts was also where the girls had their activities, and after scouts we could hang out with the girls. And that was why I would go. I mean, it's still that way. Pretty much wherever Kimberly goes, I'll go. But yeah. Oh, there we go. Smash Like Glass. My jaw was agape as to how huge Christina's family is. Yeah. Crazy. Lynn says, who wrote that article, or does anyone know? Yeah, that article was written in the Columbus Dispatch by Sheridan Hendricks and Laura A. Bischoff. Here's the byline right here. And the title is Sider's Family Quietly Dodged Public Scrutiny as Family Grew to 16 Children. It's a terrific article. Well done, Dispatch. Well done. Good job. So that's where we're going to stop for tonight in terms of the Siders family. Despair not, though, my friends. Despair not. We've still got some headlines to get into in the in Lindsay Clancy trial, the Nick Reiner prosecution, Luigi Mangione prosecution. We've got this weird one of this woman who killed her 3-year-old allegedly. We got some good news coming up. But before we do any of that, how about we hop into 3 questions? Let's do it.
It's 3 questions with Gavin Fish.
Guys, in this segment, as I grab one of my many tubes of Blistex on the old desk and soften the old lips, in this segment, I answer 3 questions that you send to me to the email address on your screen, 3questions@gavinfish.com. There's some cheaters that like to send other stuff there, but it's an AI agent that just reads through and adds it to the list. So you don't have to do that. The best way to reach me is through my website, gavinfish.com. Click on the little envelope icon, send me your message. Several of you have volunteered to be document retrievy people, document retrievers. We got to figure out a way. I've got to figure out a way to teach you guys how to do that. We should probably do it in Slack, but yeah, got to figure out that one. Okay. I'm sidetracked though. Where was I? Okay, you send in 3 questions to 3questions@gavinfish.com. I solemnly promise that I will answer all the questions. I will not dodge them. I will answer them to the best of my ability. The caveat is, of course, I answer them 3 at a time and in the order that I choose. Question number 1 comes in from Diane G., frequent correspondent. Diane asks, who has impacted you most in your career and how? I thought about this a little bit as I was preparing this little slide. I was talking to somebody recently, can't remember who it was, but when I was working in high end audio, I was somebody who was known by some, not by all, as a bit of what was called a golden ear. Somebody who could listen to music played back through electronics and listen for what those electronics were doing well, what they were doing poorly. And all of that was trained into me by 2 people. The first was a guy named Kent Laughlin. Kent was a golden ear himself, and he taught me the the verbiage, like how to describe what it is that you're hearing. So, well, the first step was, do you hear that? Can you hear that? What you're hearing is this, and this is how we describe that, right? And that was over the course of years and years and years of sitting in a listening room, critically listening to electronics. Kent taught me my vocabulary and he taught me how to critically listen. Our mutual boss, a guy named Bruce Brisson, he taught me. He took me deeper and helped me to understand what was happening within electronics harmonically. And so I would say a combination of Bruce and Kent were the 2 people who impacted me most in my career. I'm out of touch with both of them now. One on purpose, one not. Nevertheless, they both are extremely important people in my career. Great question. Thank you, Diane. And I still use those skills to this day. I still use those skills quite a bit. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody reach out and they will send me something to listen to. And when I say send me something to listen to, I mean it's a piece of electronics. Ask me my opinion. Ask me to tell them what I think could be improved, what I think it does well, that sort of stuff. And I love doing that kind of stuff. Question number 2, also from Diane. What role does community or social support play in my journey? I'm a bit of a solitary creature, but what does community or social support play in my journey? Like in my life? I do have to say, moving out to Western Pennsylvania has been difficult in a lot of ways in that we don't have the same peers that we had when we were living in the West. Meaning, in our circle of associations, there are not all that many people our same age who have children about the same age as 1 or 2 or 5 of our kids, right? And who have the same kind of interests or education or hobbies, beliefs. We have very few peers. And that is actually pretty difficult. It's something that we have struggled with a bit and something that we are trying to maybe fix. Yeah. So yeah, it plays an important role, though Kimberly and I are more introverted people. It sure does feel good it's one of the reasons why she and I are going to visit friends. We're hopping on a plane, going across the country, and spending the weekend with friends that I've known since I was like 10 years old. And we're doing that because in order to have friends In order to have peers, we have to go back to the old ones, right? And it's not that we're being forced to. I'm like, I've been looking forward to this for months. And when we go back to California, what do? It's not just getting together with family, it's getting together with our peers, our friends. So it's very important. Just for our sanity and our happiness, I guess. I don't know. So what role? Friendship. Friendship is what community or social support plays in my life. Question number 3 is from Cindy. What do you think is the most admirable, Javi, take 2. What do you think is the most admirable trait in a best friend? Well, you are going to make me break down and cry. As a kid, I was somebody. I was a bit of a social butterfly. So, um, so I had lots of friends, but I've only in my life had 2 best friends. One I am married to. She is my absolute best friend. What is the best trait in her? Guys, the list is long, but I think it's just unconditional love. She knows me for who I am, good, bad, and ugly, and loves me anyway, in spite of and because of and all of the ofs, right? My previous best friend died when we were 14, and I would say that it was the same kind of thing, just that brotherly love for one another. That we are very different from one another, and we were completely okay with who the other was. And I would imagine, had he survived, we would be best friends to this day for that very reason. So the most admirable trait in a best friend is unconditional love. It's not loyalty. It's not, I don't know, talent. It's not any of the things other than love. That's what it is. No, those are my answers to your 3 questions. Now put your answers in the comments, the live chat. Who has impacted you most in your career and how? What role does community or social support play in your life? And what do you think is the most admirable trait in a best friend? And whilst I say fancily, like my friends across the pond say, whilst you are answering those questions, I will get into headlines. Here we go.
True crime headlines.
Running a little long tonight, guys, which is okay because I totally forgot about the after show. We'll pick it back up next week. Running a little long, but guys, here we go. Headline number 1 comes to us from USA Today. Lindsay Clancy trial focuses on medication. This is from today. Medical providers who previously treated Lindsay Clancy took the stand in her murder trial to testify about medications they prescribed to the Massachusetts mother in the months before she allegedly strangled her 3 children to death. Why they said allegedly, I don't know. She says she did. Clancy's prescription medication use has been the focal point of the trial, which began in late July. Prosecutors argued that she manipulated her providers and sought quick fixes for her depression and anxiety. Clancy's defense argues that she repeatedly sought treatment and was over-medicated before the killings. So they focused on the psychiatrists, on the nurse practitioners, on all of the medications. There were so many that were prescribed. And then I noticed in reporting today that there was a bit of a breakdown in court today, but that one will continue. Headline number 2, guys, Nick Reiner has been indicted on murder charges in the killings of his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, at their Los Angeles home. Let me see if I can, here we go. There is Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner there. Nick Reiner, let's bring him up. There's Rob with Nick, has been indicted on murder charges in the killings of his parents inside their Brentwood home last year. On Wednesday, today, Nick Reiner pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of murder with the special circumstances allegations of multiple murders and murder by means of lying in wait. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office said he also faces a special allegation that he personally used a dangerous and deadly weapon, a knife. The grand jury, which had been meeting in secret, returned the indictment on July 20th. The grand jury indictment is a major step toward trial and allows prosecutors to skip California's preliminary hearing process where evidence is publicly aired. CBS Los Angeles has reached out to Nick Reiner's public defender, Kimberly Green, and a representative for the family. Then it goes into the background on the Reiners, which, if convicted on all charges, Nick Reiner faces death or life in state prison without the possibility of parole, the DA's office said, though in California there is a moratorium. If he were to get the DP, it wouldn't happen, at least as the way politics are now in the Golden State. The decision on whether the prosecutors will seek the DP will be made at a later date. He remains in custody with no bail. His pretrial hearing is scheduled for the 15th of September. Turning to Luigi Mangione, apparently, and reportedly, he might be nearing a plea deal. Dun, dun, dun. Justice Department prosecutors and defense attorneys for accused assassin Luigi Mangione asked a U.S. judge Tuesday to set a conference for Friday morning, prompting speculation the 28-year-old could agree to a plea deal in his federal case days before he's scheduled to go to trial on state murder charges. Neither side immediately responded to requests for comment from Fox News. This is written by Mike Ruiz, by the way, our pal. After an anonymous ABC report said the purpose of the hearing was for the sides to discuss a potential agreement. A 2-sentence letter for the judge requesting the hearing makes no mention of the purpose. Quote, the parties write jointly to request a conference with the court. Based on communications with chambers, we understand that the court is available to hold the conference on Friday, August 14th at 11 a.m. So, of course, he is charged with killing Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, by shooting him assassin style with a pistol and a suppressor in the back in New York City. So that's what's going on. This is one that I want to share with you guys. Woman charged with murdering 3-year-old daughter nearly 30 years after fleeing the country following her death. This from People. A Texas woman has been charged with the 1996 murder of her 3-year-old daughter after nearly 3 decades on the run. Maria Nares was captured and arrested in Mexico on Saturday the 8th. The 48-year-old was indicted in 1999 for allegedly murdering her 3-year-old daughter, Cassandra White, in 1996 before fleeing the country. The Tarrant County DA's office announced Monday. Quote, before the case could go to trial, Nares fled and has remained a fugitive for decades. She was arrested Saturday in Mexico, the DA's office said in a news release posted on Facebook. No further details about the events leading up to the arrest were disclosed. White died in mid-November 96 after Nares allegedly shook her and threw her into a wall, hitting her head on a door, according to the 1999 Tarrant County grand jury indictment obtained by Fox 4. According to the outlet, Nares was indicted on a capital murder charge in April 97. She didn't show up in court after her bond was reduced to $25,000, and a warrant for her arrest was issued in late 97, after which she escaped the country. So, 30 years on the run. That's probably what she looked like in 1996. She is now facing those charges. Now, before we get into the final segment, which is good news, let me just check in, see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Let me just go down here. Robin says, This is answering the questions of the day. If a person is kind, honest, and hilarious, they are in the club, in my opinion. What if it's just 2 out of the 3? What if they're kind and hilarious, but they're liars? I don't know. Melissa says their trustworthiness. For question number 3. Question number 3, unadulterated, unconditional love, trust, and non-judgmental. I'm a little judgy with my friends, but I'm honest about it. Like, dude, okay. Frida People says, regarding community, I live in a very poor city and would love to help neighbors with improvement of yards and house exterior, but have limited energy, money, etc. Other than that, I just try to dodge bullets. Well, I hope you're successful in that. Frida says, the community keeps my situational awareness sharp. Oh my goodness. Smashed like glass. Can't Nick afford a private attorney? No, he was first represented by Alan Jackson, but then the money dried up because his sister and brother were like, we're not paying for your defense for killing our parents. And then Robin says, it's the trifecta, Gavin. All must have all 3 attributes to win. Okay, good. It's like that for me with Chinese food, right? I have 3 rules. You have to have all 3. Okay, hey Wanda, could you please play us some transition music to get us into the good news spirit?
Glad tidings fill the air
Cleaning the
today.
palate, guys. Cleaning the palate.
Seem to drift away, but hearts grow light with every word. Joyful news is sweetly heard.
Yay! I love the barbershop. It's good stuff. Wanda sings bass. It's baritone. She sings baritone in that one. Guys, the headline of the day, the good news headline of the day, comes to us from people.com. 7-year-old boy honored after calling 911 during mom's seizure. And look at that kiddo. Coming from Mooney's state, a 7-year-old Virginia boy is being recognized for his quick thinking after his mother suffered a seizure at home and he called 911 for help. Zayden Curran Herndon received the Citizen Life Saving Award from the Virginia Beach Police Department on Tuesday, August 11th, yesterday, after he helped his mother, Kayleen Curran Herndon, when she experienced a seizure on the morning of July 21st. When his mother became unresponsive, Zayden, again 7 years old, called 911 while his infant sister cried, providing dispatchers with his exact address and calmly answering their questions, the Virginia Beach Police Department said in a social media post. He also stayed with his mother and comforted her until emergency crews arrived. According to the department, Zayden's mother said she remembers preparing breakfast for the children and sitting at the dining room table with her daughter in a high chair. Her next memory was waking up in the hospital. She later learned what her son had done during the emergency. Quote, from what they told me, he picked his sister up. He told me he put her on the dining room table to make sure I was okay. He said he was talking to me and saying, it's okay, Mommy, it's okay, Kayleen told the outlet. Zayden was prepared to respond because his mother had been teaching him how to handle emergency situations since he was 2. Quote, we've practiced a lot just because we never know if and when it's going to happen. Calling 911 isn't a game, but he needs to do it in case of an emergency, Kayleen told WTKR. I think he did phenomenal. We're super, super proud of him. Virginia Beach police officer James Hilton nominated Zayden for the award after learning about his actions. Quote, he speaks calmly about what had happened with his mom. He explained that his sister was knocked over in a high chair. So I started thinking about everything that happened with this, and I thought, that's a lot for a 7-year-old. How impressive. Hilton said Zayden's response showed both bravery and concern for his family, which it did. Not only did he show heroic actions, but he showed compassion with his sister and was so concerned for his mom, he told the outlet. Anyway, Zayden, good job, buddy. Good job, little man. Well done. Thanks for taking care of your mom. That was a brave, and your sister, a brave, brave, brave thing to do. It reminds me of a video that I saw on social media this week of a man jumping off a bridge to help somebody who was having an emergency in the river, and he was so afraid to jump, but jump he did. Yeah, it was like a 40-foot bridge. Jump he did. He overcame his nerves. And that is courage, my friends. That is courage. Doing something that is hard, being asked to do something that is hard and scary, and doing it nonetheless. So, Zayden, thank you very much for doing that and for brightening our day. That is our good news. It's a beautiful way to end the live stream. And yeah, thanks for joining me. Thank you for the chats. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for taking care of me on a video that I know will be demonetized. Thank you for watching on Spotify Premium Video, which really helps the channel. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but on Facebook, I was kind of a little deal until this month. Now I'm kind of a big deal. We're at like 110,000 followers on Facebook, and I am working hard to put a lot of true crime content up on Facebook. Not only clips of the show, but headlines that I'm reading, stories that are happening, things that we're talking about. So if you haven't already, go check me out on Facebook. Just search Gavin Fish. You will find this page. I'm in my sharp blue shirt, blue striped tie. And if you want to catch us in the fish tank, if you go to my website, gavinfish.com, and you click on the little fishy icon, that will take you to the tank. It looks like this. And by the way, in the description of this video or this podcast, there is a link to both places. I invite you to come along. Thank you for sticking around till the end. And with that, I bid you adieu. Thanks, mods. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.